Hey guys, today we are going to continue talking about the Earth's hydrosphere, but today let's look at the oceans. Now, as you already know, that Earth is covered by oceans. Majority of it is covered by oceans. When you look at our map, or when you look at Earth from outside of the space, you can see that Earth is normally called, or Earth is normally known as a blue planet. The reason being that it is covered by water, a lot of it. So it is covered by ocean for the most part. But it can also be an important source of food and mineral resources. Now, what I mean by this is that especially people who live in coastal areas, which means that in areas which are closer to the oceans or water bodies, they rely on various sources like fishes, for example, or sea life, marine plants. These are some example of food that is normally consumed by people. We also have different minerals that can only be found deep in the ocean. Now, the main use for the ocean, however, so far, can you guess what it is? Well, if you guess transportation, you're absolutely right. You must have, whenever you see pictures of ocean, you see things like ships or boats that are traveling across it, right? From, let's say, Asia to Europe and Europe to America. They're traveling from continent to continent, carrying loads and loads and loads of stuff. So, the main purpose of the ocean that we use it for is transportation, but also recreation, like surfing, or people like to go swim, or people also go, deep sea diving. These are different types of recreational activities that people often participate in. Now, a fun fact about the ocean is that it stores a lot of heat. However, even though it has a lot of heat, it does not exactly heat up. It stays warm. Now, there's a huge difference between heating up, as in boiling, and staying warm. And we would say that even though ocean has a lot of heat, even though it stores a lot of heat, it does not exactly heat up or boil over. It simply stays warm, and it normally stays longer than even the air that is surrounding it. Now, the oceans actually distribute heat and resources using their currents. When ocean currents are traveling, or when they are moving, or when they are not stable, they are normally using that process to distribute heat or various types of resources from one part of itself to another part. Now, there are obviously different types of oceans, right? We have different categories of oceans. These are known as the Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean, Arctic Ocean, or the Southern Ocean. It can also be known as the Antarctic Ocean, but let's go with Southern for now. The biggest one, do you know what the biggest one of them is called? Well, if you guessed Pacific, you are right. Pacific Ocean is the largest, deepest, coldest, and also the least salty of them all. The second largest would be the Atlantic Ocean. Now, the Atlantic Ocean, once again, is very salty. It's warm and is normally shallower than, let's say, the Pacific Ocean, which we know is literally very deep and is the deepest one. The Indian Ocean, on the other hand, is kind of intermediate in depth, which means that it's not too deep, but it's not too shallow either. It's kind of intermediate. And when it comes to depth, temperature, and salinity as well. Salinity means the amount of salt that it contains. So it's very mediocre, or it's very medium when we are talking about depth, temperature, or the amount of salt it contains. Now, the Arctic Ocean, on the other hand, is the ocean that is found near the North Pole. But the Southern, or the Antarctic Ocean, is found near the South Pole, and both of these contain a lot of sea ice. The reason being because it's at the North Pole and the South Pole, it gets the least amount of sun, which means that it's going to be colder in these areas. Now, as you already know, water is a universal solvent, which means that a lot of things can be easily dissolved in the water. Now, ocean is no exception. The water body, that is the ocean, has a lot of gases that are dissolved in it, like nitrogen, oxygen, or carbon dioxide. Now, the movement of wind over the ocean and water agitates, which means it kind of mixes up the water at the surface, speeding up the exchange of gases between the ocean and the atmosphere. Think about when you shake a soda bottle. There is a clear exchange of gases that happen between the soda itself and the air that's contained in the bottle, right? That's what we're talking about. There is an exchange that takes place because of the wind between the surface of the atmosphere, the surface of the ocean and the atmosphere. Now, of course, even in the ocean, photosynthesis is taking place because we have a lot of marine plants, which means ocean plants. These plants take in oxygen and take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen, which is, of course, then used by different organisms like fishes to go through their own process of respiration. Now, let's look at the last slide here about how we can study the ocean. There are different ways in which we can study the ocean. The first being, let's look at satellites. Satellites high above the earth can actually continuously gather a lot of information about the oceans. The Topax or the Poseidon are actually two examples of satellites that orbits the earth high above the surface of the earth, and they're continuously gathering information. There's also something called the sonar maps, which maps the ocean floor, and it tells you how long it takes sound waves to bounce off of the ocean floor. Now, the distance between the surface of the water to the ocean floor and how long it takes to bounce from that surface tells you exactly how deep the ocean is, or how exactly it should look like after that process is completed. We also have a lot of underwater vehicles or vessels called submersibles, which trench deep into the water and investigate what exactly is happening down there, or how they look, how the ocean surface looks, and they investigate different ocean trenches. I hope this made sense to a lot of y'all. I know it's a little complicated, but please read through this slide and let me know what you need help with, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Bye.